Laser projector brands are lying to you on the spec sheet. Brightness numbers, contrast ratios, color volume, almost none of it survives contact with an actual dark room. Today, we fix that. Here are the ones worth buying and the ones quietly burning your money. A bad projector doesn't announce itself in the store. It announces itself the first time you dim the lights and think, wait, I paid how much for this? I've gone through more of these than I care to admit. Washed out images, fan noise that drowns the dialogue, contrast specs that were clearly written by a marketing intern. So here's what we actually did. We tested brightness, color accuracy, throw distance, and real-world contrast in a controlled dark room, not a trade show floor. We rank them honestly by price to performance. The cheapest pick here might surprise you. The most expensive one definitely will, $1,300. That is what Optoma is asking for the UHZ36, and the pitch is a laser-powered 4K HDR experience with filmmaker mode preserving the director's original vision. Sounds serious, so let's stress test that. At $1,299, this projector needs to demolish everything cheaper in this lineup on contrast, color accuracy, and real brightness. Not spec sheet brightness. Real brightness in a dark room on a screen where you actually watch movies. Here's the problem. With only 17 reviews and a 3.8-out-of-5 rating, buyer confidence is thin for a flagship-priced unit. That is not a minor flag. That is a siren. Most owners at this price point are not posting 3 stars because they are thrilled. The data we have does not support the premium ask. Filmmaker mode is a real feature worth having, but it does not justify a $1,299 price tag if the contrast and brightness claims do not hold in controlled conditions. Who should buy this? Nobody yet. Not until independent verification catches up with the marketing. The next projector on this list actually earned its rating. ViewSonic's LS901-4K leads with 5,500 ANSI lumens. At $2,044, that claim needs to hold. Not in a darkened lab. In your actual room with ambient light, with a screen that isn't perfectly white, with the kind of conditions real buyers actually live in. So does it. Here's the problem. With only 25 reviews and no independent lab measurements yet on record, we can't verify the lumen output against controlled test conditions. The specs on paper are genuinely compelling. 4K UHD at 3840 by 2160, a 1.7 times optical zoom, 360-degree projection flexibility, and 4.2 milliseconds input lag with 240 Hz refresh for gaming. Those gaming numbers, if they hold, are legitimately impressive at this price tier. But if they hold is doing a lot of work in that sentence. ViewSonic's marketing materials say 5,500 lumens. Independent verification says nothing yet because there isn't enough of it. At over $2,000, you are betting real money on unconfirmed brightness claims. That's a risk I can't recommend you take right now. Check back when the data catches up. So BenQ comes in at $1,699 with a claim that is genuinely bold, a projector that handles both 4K cinema and 240 Hz gaming without compromising either. That's the pitch. Let's stress test it. The 240 Hz refresh rate is real, but here's the fine print. It runs at 1080p, not 4K. Drop to 4K and you're at 60 Hz with a 16 millisecond input lag. That's a meaningful ceiling for competitive gaming. The 4 millisecond response time figure applies specifically to the 108 OP 240 Hz mode. Whether that trade-off bothers you depends entirely on what you're actually playing. The laser light source at 3,200 ANSI lumens is the strongest data point here. That's lights-on capable brightness, and 95% Rec 709 color coverage backs the cinema side of the promise. ARC and EARC support, vertical lens shift, and 3D keystone correction are genuine convenience wins for a living room install. The 4.4 out of 5 rating across 38 reviews is positive, but a thin sample. At $1,699, this needs a bulletproof case. It's a real dual-mode projector. Just know the gaming ceiling is 1080p. Casual gamers and cinephiles, this works. Hardcore 4K competitive players, it doesn't. Now at $430, the Toptro A2 makes a bold promise. Skip the streaming stick, skip the soundbar, skip the setup headache. Wi-Fi 6, 36 watts Dolby Audio, Vita Smart OS, autofocus, all baked in. On paper, that's a lot of box for the money. But here's where I pump the brakes. The rating is a perfect 5 stars across 189 reviews. That number deserves scrutiny. Real products have real complaints. A flawless score on a relatively thin review count tells you this is still early. The brightness claim is 650 ISO ANSI lumens. That's honest labeling, unlike competitors screaming 1,500 lumens with no standard behind it. Respect that. The Vita OS does have genuine streaming pedigree from the TV world. And 36 watts dual speakers with Dolby processing is legitimately useful for outdoor use. But native resolution is 1080p. The 4K decoding language means it accepts 4K signals, not that it renders them. At $430, that gap matters. Who's this for? Renters or dorm setups where space and simplicity win. Who should skip it? Anyone who needs verified long-term reliability data before committing. That doesn't exist yet. $200. Google TV built-in. 4K decoding, 2500 ANSI lumens. Autofocus, auto keystone, Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.2, and a self-closing magnetic lens cap. That is the Pamoon's pitch. On paper, it sounds like someone made a spreadsheet mistake. So let's stress test it. The 2500 ANSI lumens claim is the one that actually matters. That is a real measurement standard, not the inflated lumen numbers cheaper projectors hide behind. If it delivers even most of that, daylight-adjacent rooms become watchable. Native 1080p with 4K decode support is honest marketing. You are not getting a true 4K panel at this price, and the brand does not pretend otherwise. The autofocus and keystone system is the feature most buyers will feel immediately, yeah. Set it on a nightstand at an angle and it corrects itself. Convenient. Here is the problem. 119 reviews at 4.8 stars is a thin sample. We do not yet have independent long-term data on brightness consistency or focus drift over months of use. At $200, the value proposition is genuinely hard to argue with on specs alone, but specs without durability data are a promise, not a proof. Buy this if the price to feature list is your priority and you accept some uncertainty. Need verified reliability? Keep watching. So here's where the tiers actually shake out. Smart features sound good in a spec sheet. In real use, most buyers ignore them within a week. What you cannot ignore is brightness consistency, longevity risk, and whether the price gap is justified. The budget tier delivers lumens per dollar. The mid-tier adds polish but narrows that gap fast. The premium tier? You are paying for verified durability, not just bigger numbers. Many owners report the top picks holding output longer than cheaper rivals that measure well on day one. Price per lumen favors the budget options early. Long-term cost per hour does not. Pick your tier based on how long you actually plan to run these. That answer changes everything. So here's where everything lands. Under $500, one projector punches so far above its price that the others in that tier barely have an argument. Over $800, you are mostly paying for a brand name on a spec sheet. And above $1,300, the marketing gets louder while the real-world gains get smaller. The counterintuitive winner here is not the most expensive option, not even close. It is the mid-tier pick that nobody expects to win. And it wins on every metric that actually matters at your wall. Links are below. Links are pinned in the description. Current prices, no fluff. Bought one of these? Tell me how it actually performs in the comments. And subscribe if you want tests, not brochures.